We credit Mushoku Tensei as being sort of the progenitor of the modern isekai, or at least certainly one of them. So how does it hold up now that we've had so many other isekai novels since it came out? Hello everybody and welcome to this light novel review. I'm Justus Stone, and on my channel I focus on light novels. It's all to try and grow and expand the fandom, as well as helping people find new light novels to love. So if you haven't done it already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future light novel videos. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing volume number 1 of Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation. This one written by Rifujin na Magonote. It's illustrated by Shirotaka with a translation by Kevin Frane and Paul Cuneo. This one is released officially in English by 7 Seas. If you want to pick up your own copy, I'll have links in the description down below. Now, like I said, Mushoku Tensei is actually one of those books that we look at and say, this is part of what made isekai so popular. In fact, gave us some of the more popular tropes of isekai, such as truck-kun. Yes, that's right. Murderous truck-kun that's taken out so many modern Japanese people and sent them to another world. This is one of the first books where that happened. Now, Mushoku Tensei actually started as a web novel back in 2012. Kind of puts it on the same level as, say, The Rising of the Shield Hero and even Konosuba. A lot of those novels were published around the same time. But Mushoku Tensei was one of the first ones that really kind of took this whole thing serious, and certainly was one of the first ones that kind of did the whole honest-to-God reincarnation type isekai. Not the whole, I was magically just whisked away to another world, but nope, I got killed and was reborn as an infant and now have to live life all over again. This was one of the first ones that did that one. There's currently 22 volumes of this series out in Japan, and funny enough, even though a lot of the books that came out after this or at around the same time have already had anime series, this one's just recently had an anime announced, and we are expecting it sometime in 2020, although currently I haven't been able to find any honest-to-goodness date for it, so I expect we probably won't see this one until later on in the year, probably like the fall season around October or so. Now, like I said, Mushoku Tensei is a reincarnation type isekai, so our main character starts off as a 35-year-old shut-in, and let's just say that you won't feel bad when he gets plowed into by a truck. That's probably the best. I mean, this guy is such a horrible individual that when his parents die, his brothers and sister come over and they smash his computer, beat the crap out of him, and throw him out into the streets and basically disown him right there and then, because he is such a waste of a person. And at least our main character, even at that low point of his life, starts thinking, man, I really messed up. I really wasted my life. And he gets hit by Truck-kun trying to do a good thing, which, you know, shows you that the character's not completely beyond redemption. Hence, the character gets reincarnated. And he gets reincarnated as Rudeus Grayrat. Anyway. It's one of the things in the book that I was just like, really? That's the last name you could come up with was Grayrat? But anyway, he is reborn as an infant. He is the son of a knight who is kind of the protector of this small village out in the boondocks, basically. His mom is gifted with magical abilities, mainly healing. And they have a maid who apparently was an adventurer at one point who trained with his father, Paul. Now, Rudeus has all of his previous memories. So even though he starts off the book as an infant, he still remembers everything that happened in his previous life. Both the good and the quite numerous awful. He resolves that he is going to make this life better. He is going to do better with this one. He is going to make himself a better person, be a better son to his parents, be a better individual. And so, as he gets a little bit older, he starts to do things. He learns that this world is a world of magic and sorcery and knights and swordplay. And so he decides to try and pursue all of those things, learn some magic, learn from his father who is a knight and is a master of the sword. He decides that he's just going to try and do everything he can, and all while still being a good kid. This book follows Rudeus from his infancy up until he is 7 years old. Now this first installment follows Rudeus from ages of infancy up until he is 7 years old. It basically introduces us to the magic of this world and how magic operates. We have a tutor that comes into Rudeus's life to teach him magic, and of course he begins to learn the sword from his father. Now we've gone through this whole routine of main character learning stuff, getting strong, being better at it than a lot of other people. It's pretty standard fare, but I will say that I found this book actually really entertaining, and there's a couple of reasons for that. First off, despite the fact that Rudeus was like a fairly loathsome individual in our world, he is actually a fairly fun narrator to read. And the other thing that makes this kind of fun is that interspersed in the book are viewpoints of other characters. So the book is mainly told first person from Rudeus's point of view, but every now and then it switches to like different people. Like for instance, Lilia the maid, it shows how she is creeped out by Rudeus when he's an infant. In particular, the fact that he seems to like breasts a lot more than an infant should, outside of just, food source. Because let's remember, Rudeus has the brain of a 35-year-old and a 35-year-old pervert otaku. I mean, That said, though, it does actually start to go into the minds of his parents and everything else and how they view Rudeus as he goes through life and is obviously far more severe and serious than a lot of other kids, is a lot more mindful than a lot of other kids because, again, this is a character who is making this determination to try and be better at this lifetime. And so I liked the fact that it showed how other people react to him and that there were some things where they were worried, like, Paul, his father, was worried that he was going to be weak because he didn't cry, he didn't throw tantrums, he didn't do these things. Like, he was worried that, the child's not going to be strong, and that's why he's not doing those things. I've already mentioned the maid, his mother talking about how, she wasn't too sure about how much affection he had for her because he seemed to be so serious and everything else. In fact, the secondary characters get a lot more development and a lot more sort of depth of character in this book than a lot of other isekais. A lot of other isekais, it is so much about the main character, but in this one, Roxy, his magic tutor, is an interesting character who honestly, I wanted to read a lot more about. I'm really hoping that she makes a bigger splash later on in the series. Paul is incredibly imperfect as a person, and it was kind of fun to see how Rudeus draws on his own imperfection in his previous life to recognize Paul's imperfections, but at the same time, is forgiving and also wants to make sure that his family stays together, and so he covers for Paul a bit, how he views his mother and all of those kind of things. These characters had more substance to them, these secondary characters, than, as I said, a lot of other isekai novels, which really helped to kind of build this family unit, which made me more invested in the book because it wasn't just about the one character. I was actually invested in the stories of this family and in the people that they worked with. I also appreciated that there were things of Rudeus's previous life that they didn't just cast aside. For instance, Rudeus is afraid to leave the house because he was a shut-in. And so those things kind of carry over. It's not like all of a sudden Rudeus is this incredible individual and can do whatever the heck he wants. He still has some of those things, like he's insecure about leaving the house because he was a shut-in. He steals Roxy's panties because, even though he's a kid, in his head, he's a 35-year-old perverted otaku, like even the little fan servicey things that sometimes felt out of place in the book. Like, I still kind of felt like, all right, I mean, these are here because we're showing that this guy still has some of that in him. It's not like he suddenly became a perfect human being and overcame everything. No, he still has some of those weaknesses, but he's trying to be better, and he is doing a lot better at a lot of other things. I also like that the book leaves it kind of a little bit open about whether Rudeus truly is gifted or whether he was just an early bloomer because of the fact that he has a 35-year-old mind. It kind of gets to the point in the book where Rudeus hits sort of a wall in his development, and I appreciated that because so many isekai characters never hit a wall. Like there's just, the sky's the limit and they can just do, oh, well, I need to spend 3 pages to figure out how to overcome this obstacle. No big deal, That there isn't that sense in this. This one, it kind of felt like, okay, Rudeus is advancing because of the fact that he's approaching it as an adult, but there may be a limit to what he can do. There may be, struggles down the road that he's going to face because he was such an early bloomer that the frustration of not being able to push forward is going to hit him. So I liked the fact that there were obstacles put up in front of Rudeus's development and that it wasn't all just clear sailing and, super OP and nothing can stop him. Overall, this was a really enjoyable book that, instead of trying to be silly or play with tropes or try to, one up everybody else in terms of how ludicrous it could be. Instead, it seemed to be focusing a lot more on characters, on the character of Rudeus, on the character of his family and his tutor and his eventual friend. And even that whole friendship thing was fun because, Rudeus is awkward because he's been a shut-in. What does he know about making friends? So overall, this was actually a lot better than I think I initially thought it might be, because of all the other isekais that have kind of, owed it to this book. Overall, I was really impressed by, like I said, the character development, the time spent with developing the family unit and everything else. It ticked a lot of boxes for me that a lot of isekai I usually complain about. So overall, Mushoku Tensei may have helped to start the whole isekai boom, but apparently some people didn't learn from some of its better lessons. I don't know how the book goes on from here. As far as I know, it continues to follow Rudeus as he grows. This is the one thing that sets it apart from a lot of other reincarnation type isekais, that we don't have like a sudden 10-year jump where it's like, let's watch the character until he's 3 and then boom, he's 16 years old. Like I said, this entire book, it only covers up until he's 7. And just looking at cover art for the next couple volumes, it's pretty clear that we're not doing some huge time jumps here. We are following Rudeus as he grows, which I think is kind of cool, actually. In this video, I want to say a special thanks to Mitchell Von Region, Yun, Kyle Block, Renzaz, and Drone205 for their support on Patreon, as well as the support of all my patrons who help me buy books for review, as well as additional hosting for the Light Novel Podcast so we can get it on as many platforms as possible. So for my next review, I'm leaving fantasy worlds behind and returning back to our own world and taking a look at a character who thinks that life is a really crappy game and meets a girl who says, life's a great game, it's just that you don't know how to play it. So my next review is going to be volume number 1 of bottom tier character Tomozaki. So again, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss out on this review, because little secret, I've read this one already and I really liked it. So that'll be my next review. In the meantime, thank you for joining me in this video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Till then, bye bye for now.